Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense. We make some sense out of the nonsense. We're finishing up our little series here on the holiness of God, on the righteousness of God, challenging you tonight. If you want to make some sense out of all the different things that are going on, your perspective of God matters. As we talk about end times, as we talk about things winding down here on this planet, as we talk about all the ins and outs to that, the fact that people have thought for years and years that, Jesus was coming soon and he hasn't. There's a whole bunch of reasons, right, to doubt. God tells us that that's what faith is all about. Faith is believing in what you can't see, having a hope for what you cannot see. That's really, really hard to do. Right? Do I believe that God is who he says he is? This is the crux, right, of making sense out of the nonsense. And God says there's going to be a lot of nonsense. In the last days, there's going to be tons of nonsense. Nonsense that is destructive in nature, right? That is going to kill people, take people out. And if you're not careful, you're going to have a really hard time because the God that we have set up doesn't do this. He doesn't look this way. Excuse me. Last night, challenged you to think about the fact that, God does the things that he says he's going to do. He shut the door of the ark. He kicked Adam and Eve out. Right? He tore down his temple with his name on it. Right? He has done these. He dispersed his people for 2,000 years. Right? And then he brought them back. Let me give you some good news, right? The good news is that God did bring them back. The fact is that he didn't wipe all of the population out with Noah, that he did restart, right? That he did give men a chance again. The fact is that he did rebuild his temple 2 times. And God does these things. He loves giving us opportunities. But the scariest part about all this is if you keep thinking that the opportunities are endless, 100 years of watching some guy build an ark, all the animals go into the ark, people laughing, people thinking, what is this all about? And then the door shuts and you can't get in. The good news is, right, that God doesn't want any to perish. The bad news is that when he shuts the door, it doesn't reopen. He doesn't say, oh, just kidding, just wanted to test you. Come on in, everybody, you'll all be saved. They didn't go around picking people up on this boat. This boat floated around while the entire world was covered in water, right? That is a scary thing. The hope is that God loves us. His love has made a way for us. His holiness, his righteousness made it so that there was no way to get to him. But his love for us made a way through Jesus Christ. You and I need to understand that, and we need to take advantage of that. So as we finish up this series, the whole question is, listen, we started out by, right, is God holy? Is he righteous? And if he is, right, then that means you and I, we can't be in his presence because we are not holy and we are not righteous. You need to just admit that. As we go into this end times, the most important thing that you and I need to understand is that we are not righteous, we're not worthy, right? But God has somehow decided that you're worth it. But you have to decide that you're not righteous, that you're not holy. Do not depend upon a God that you've made up, a God that goes against this. God did kick Adam and Eve out of the garden, and he did shut the door, and he did a bunch of other things. But God has made a way so that we don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Right? That's where the hope is. The hope is you don't have to worry about death. He conquered death through Jesus. And so therefore you and I have a way. We just simply have a way. You have to decide whether or not you want to allow Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life, to be your substitute for what you deserve. You don't deserve heaven. You and I deserve hell. That's where our road leads to. Man's ways they lead to destruction. God's ways lead to salvation, right? So you have to physically get out of the rut. There's a very deep rut. It's very wide, very deep, that goes to hell. And most people are on it. And just because they see other people on it, they feel comfortable. They feel okay with it. And there are people literally shouting all around, don't worry, this road goes to heaven. This road's going to heaven. Man, if you're on a road with lots of people, right, and they just are telling you this road leads to heaven, and they're doing whatever they want, but you know that the destination ends with a holy God, and you should do everything you can to get out of that rut. The truth is, you can't. You're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not good enough to get out of the rut. You have to have Jesus. Jesus reaches down, he plucks us out of the rut, puts us on a new path. It's a narrow path, right? Not lots of people walking on it, but it's a path that leads to heaven. I didn't say that, Jesus said it. Jesus said, few people are on it, and it's a narrow path, right? You have to choose to believe it. So as we finish this up, pray that you will realize the holy God that is here, that is all around us. The fact that someday you and I are going to stand in front of that holy God. And the only way that he says, come on in, my good and faithful servant, is if Jesus has plucked us off of the wide road, the road that leads to destruction, put us on the narrow road, and is walking with us. So that when we stand in front of God, he stands in front of his Father. He claims us. And then we get the well done, my good and faithful servant. Then we get to go to heaven. Don't buy all the stuff that other people are telling you. Don't change the God of this Bible and think that you're going to get to heaven. You're either all in or you're all out. There's two choices. Hey, we're going to talk about that probably next week here on Nightly Nonsense. We just try to make some sense out of all the things all around us. The nonsense that's all around us. See you next time.